So in the previous video we did the following things. We added the ability to delete an activity, we fixed an error in sanitize properties which was preventing us to correctly save an activity. Then I fixed the emoji error that React told me about, and then I automatically reloaded activities when I added a new one. So I can move those things to the down column into Trello. I'm calling this current video to know what I will do today. So the first thing I want to do is this one, and it's before adding an activity, I want to check if the user adds a title, because the location is determined or will be determined by the current location, the date is the today's date and time, and then description can be null, we don't care, and the only thing we want to have is the title, otherwise our list is going to be like ugly because it has no titles. So I want to go here, and so in the form this must be verified when I press save. I want this to be present. So let me go, I search, enter to find the so I always use the find utility to find where the code sits. So I search, enter the activity name here, and we got to the correct place. So here is where we need to add something. So in HTML we have like the ability to validate an input element. So if we set this to be required, so I'm going to here, so the required attribute, the simplest HTML5 validation feature is the required attribute. To make an input mandatory, mark the element with this attribute. So when the attribute is set, the form won't submit and will display an error message when the input is empty. This is what happens with forms by default using the normal workflow. Now if we go here and we press save, there is no validation happening because we are basically hijacking the default form submit workflow in HTML because we are doing this in React. Because as you can see, like when this field is filled, we are calling this onChange event, which basically sets the title for the activity. So required is not something we need to do. We can leave this for our own purposes, but like as a sort of documentation that this field is required, but no, actually. So what we need to do is here in add activity, we need to say if we don't have a title, so this the syntax here, so the content in this block is executed only if there is no title, so the title is null or an empty string, and by default the title is going to be an empty string if we didn't change it, because we defined it here, use state. So if there is no title, the first thing we want to do is return, because this makes the rest of the function not execute if there is no title. So we are not going to start the activity and go back to the activities. And one thing we can do, the simplest form of feedback to the user, is we can say alert, and say please enter a title. So now if we go here and we save the activity, the dialog box appears, please enter a title, and nothing happens until we actually add a title. So let me remove this activity here. Okay. So I hope that it's clear why we can't use the required HTML attribute. It's because we are not using the default form submit workflow that sends the form to the server, and we are basically adding our own workflow using JavaScript, and we must handle things ourselves. So the second thing I want to do, so I can mark this as done. The second thing is this show an empty screen when I delete an activity. So if you remember, let me try this. I delete this activity, and notice how this activity will disappear from the list on the left, but not from the main window here on the right. See? So basically what we need to do is I want to have an empty screen here. So maybe I can say, well, two things. First, I want to add a confirmation message, because maybe I am clicking the delete button by I click this inadvertently, so I click this without wanting to actually click. Yeah, we need a dialog box. The browser offers this, so we can just use that. Or maybe we can have our own little form here, but I'm going to do the simplest thing first, and then we can refine things as we go. So when I say delete activity, we call the delete activity handler event. Okay. So what I want to do here is I want to add like a dialog box that says, "Are you sure?" HTML confirmation alert, and we have the confirm API, which looks like old school, but it's perfectly valid. It's not deprecated or anything, and so we can use this. We have the result here, so we can use this example. So we are using window.confirm. We can also say if confirm, right? Maybe I can say if does not confirm, I'm going to say return. So we don't execute the actual delete functionality. So we have an linter error because it says unexpected use of confirm, because it does not want any global to be used, to be confused with local functions. So we just enter window.confirm. So the window object is the global object of JavaScript, and many APIs are offered on this. If you're not familiar with it, we can go to the console. I can call window, press enter. We have this object here, and as you can see, there is a lot of stuff, like a lot. Everything is exposed by the browser on this object, like geolocation API, all the global events. Like we have promises, we have SVG, everything, WebGL, XML, HTTP request, parse in, parse flow, lots of stuff, lots of things. basically the whole web platform is made available to us using the window object. So let's go back to our thing, and I'm going to use single quotes because I like them. The error is, do you really want to delete this activity? So the way this works, let me see, delete. Okay, do we really want to delete this activity? And if I press cancel, nothing happens. If I press OK, the activity is deleted. So now I can focus on the empty state thing. So set screen activities. And the thing that makes the activity show up here is when we have like the current activity object so the current activity object is the prop, and I'm not sure if we like clearing a prop is like a good practice for React, because here the simplest thing we can say is like current activity equals null. So for example, I delete this activity, I press OK, no, nothing happens. Yeah, because as I think about it, right, this component needs to be re-rendered when the current activity is cleared. So I'm just going to say, let me go and see where this activity detail component is added to the DOM. So current activity is this, and I'm going to pass the set current activity method here, which we got from React hooks. Alright, so in activity detail, I save this. In activity detail, I also get the set current activity method, and here I call set current activity null, or well, it's originally defined as null, so I can reset this to null. Okay, so let me retry. Using this activity here, I went on the mountain camping. I delete the activity and I also clear the screen. So when the screen is cleared, I can show a dashboard. So maybe I can add this here. If let me see. So current activity. So the activity details. Let me see if I'm adding the. So if I have no activity here defined. Sorry. If I have no activity. No. If I have no activity selected, this component I think that is not going to be added to the DOM. But where does this happen? Current activity. Let me see. Test. Okay, this is added, and so the activity detail component should also be added to the screen. So yeah, we have this. Okay, we have this if here on top. If there is no current activity, I'm just going to return an empty div, and I think we can return. I'm an empty state screen component which we can define here. Empty state screen. I'm going to call this empty state screen.js, and I'm going to say to add this here. This is called empty state screen. We have no props at the moment, but maybe we are going to add them later. Okay, so this is called empty screen. I think it should already be working. Okay, so this is the screen that appears as soon as we load the activities, like the application, and we have at least one activity. And it's also the screen that is going to happen when we delete an activity. So, but as soon as we click something, we are going to have this part of the screen being occupied by a single activity. So now let me center this. And how do you center things with CSS? It's a common question, and one that I answered in my blog, how to center in CSS. How to center in CSS, let me see here, how to center an element with CSS, and we have the, what do we have? I have this, yes, this Flexbox solution, which is really simple, and it perfectly centered my content. So like I can say, please select an activity, okay. So maybe later we can make this a nice dashboard. For example, we can say the number of activities we have. We can say like how long since you logged the last activity. So like it's a sort of keep using this app like notification, or something that helps our user retention and application usage, because we must always push our user to use our application instead of watching TV or browsing the internet. And maybe we can add something else to the dashboard, let's see. But right now I'm happy with this. I'm happy enough that we don't have the deleted activities still appearing on the screen. So I can go here and move this to the did in current video column. Now there is something I want to do, because first I want to make our application behave like nice even when the screen is smaller. As you can see here, I have no padding on the right when the window is being resized. I have too much padding on the left here, but I don't have enough padding. Actually, I've had zero padding on the right. Then when we go here, it's okay, but I still need to make this a bit smaller. And also I want the buttons to be smaller, right? So let's add this here. Make the activity detail view better on smaller screens. Right? How we can do this? So we can, here I can say that I want padding on the right, So let's go to the activity detail component, and we have this. So this is the thing that wraps everything, and I can say padding right is 20 pixels. Nothing should change with the screen big, but as we have a smaller screen, things should be looking better. I want this to be like, I want the padding to be equal on the left and on the right. Right now on the left it's probably double the padding on the right. Let me see here using the browser inspector. I can click this element here and then hover the elements, and as you can see we have this here which has a padding a margin left 50. Yeah, this is the thing that is being applied. So margin left 50. Let's look for this. Margin left 50. Alright. So I think that I can remove this from here and just make padding left 20. Let's see. So here, here we go to the detail, and yeah, it kind of works, but as you can see the map had its own margin and padding, I think. Let's go to the activity education. JSX is here, so margin left 50, as I assumed. Okay, I think this is looking good. The description, I need to fix the description. So the description is here, and it has this padding left 40 pixels. This needs to be 20 pixels. And as I'm here, I also want the activity description to be like bigger. Font size 1.5 rem. Okay, looks better. Cool. Okay, let's now move the delete activity button to the bottom after the description, because like it's fine for testing, but I don't really want the delete activity button to be on top. So the thing I need to do is, one, I need to remove this div here, but I also need to fix this because grid is going to assume now that we have an 80 pixel bar on the top, the one that holds the buttons. So I'm going to say auto and then 80 pixels. So the first div is this one, then so this one is this. Well, actually I think that this is wrong now. Well, first let me add back the button here. So we have, let me save this. Okay, if I remove this, what happens? Nothing, which is perfect for us. So why am I removing this? It's because like I said that we had one column on top and then which holded the button. Now we don't have it anymore, so we can just remove everything and things just flow in the correct order from top to bottom, because we have like two divs, one that holds the activity, header and the description. So now our button here, I don't want this to float to the right, want this to be centered, so I say that this div will have margin 0 auto, which is no, not working. I think I can use the flex thing I use here to center. Let me see. Okay, it's working. I want the button to be smaller because I don't need the delete button to be that big. Okay, and then I also want like an HR element, which HR, well, actually I can use CSS to add a line. I want this to be border top is 1 pixel, solid, some shade of gray. Okay, I'm clearly separating the activity from the actions I can do on it. So let me also add margin top like 70 pixels. Okay. Okay, so I think that it's fine for now. I just want to fix the map because, as you can see, I'm resizing the window, and the map is going to be always like we have the date that takes basically too much space here. I think that this is going to be an easy thing. So the whole date part here is going to take 200 pixels because I set this in the grid template columns part. Probably 100 pixels is more than enough. Maybe 120, yeah, something like this. 110 pixels. So this is, so let me see here, it's this one, 110. Okay, it's looking better. All right. Fine. So let me see the form, still working good. And yeah, so I think that for today that's it, and I'm going to move this here, and let's see you in the next video.